All right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. And, well, we are getting ready to kick off. What do we got? Baja Rally coming up here in just a few days. So I am absolutely excited about that. Gonna see what happens at this event. It is looking really, really good. You guys heard a few weeks ago we had the preview show and everything was going smooth. We did have a little bit of a hurricane issue. Some of the roads washed out and everything, but it looks like the rally is ready to go. I'm absolutely excited about that and see how that shakes down. But for this episode, if you guys already saw the title, it may seem a little new. What? Longtime rally racer Kent Jenn and wife Jen, support crew extraordinaire. On the show today, we're going to be talking about a new event coming to the United States. That is going to be the Battleborn Rally. And we're absolutely excited to hear about this event, talk a little bit about what is going to be happening and this is crazy. The last time we saw an event like this was the Nevada Rally, back when Franco Cherby's was working on this, along with a lot of the greats. So we're interested in more, finding out everything we can about this 5-day event in the Nevada desert. Saw David Pearson out there as well, running around with Kent and helping design these routes. Looks like our boys over at Rally Comp are going to be the official timing and scoring of it, so looking forward to that. But let's see here. In just a sec, we're going to have Kent and then Jen on. So what's been going on? Everybody running around, running rally books. All these rallies going on. Mason Klein winning the Certos Rally. Absolutely crazy. That was awesome. Happy Dave also. Ruta 40 making it happen down there. So let's get them on the line. It looks like we've got both Kent and Jen on there. Turn down the party here a little bit. Kent?
Good morning, Victor.
Good morning. Jen, you there?
Yep, I sure am.
Welcome. How are you guys?
Good.
Excellent.
Doing great.
All right. How's the weather? Is it hot over there, or are you guys cooling off a little bit?
It's really cool and rainy today, and we're a desert.
What?
Figure it out. Yeah.
It's always some weird weather. Not only that, we just had our first quote-unquote hurricane blow through Southern California. You guys got some of it up there too, right? A lot of rain?
We got rain. That we did.
Nice. Very nice. All right. So this, I kind of stumbled upon the website. You had told me that there was some stuff going on, but, let's jump right into it. Battleborn Rally. What's going on? How did this come about?
Well, I think I've mentioned to you, and I sent you the book, right? We became tired of hearing that you could never do this in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And I kept thinking, well, wait, we actually did, mm-hmm. In 93, 94, 95, it was done. That being then the first, rally in North America, probably. Many years before Baja Rally and Sonora started happening in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And Nevada still does a lot of racing. All the best in desert races, Vegas to Reno. There are like small events like you may have heard of Virginia City Grand Prix, which is just 30 miles from Reno. They close the secondary highway for the weekend as part of the loop for a GP style off-road race for motorcycles. Usually there's 500 riders. 50 rows of 10 is not uncommon. So it's a big event. Nevada still likes racing. So I'm like, why not? Right? What can go wrong? That's, how I've broken a few bones in rallying is what can go wrong. So we just decided to try it. And I formed the LLC a couple of years ago, and Jen was funny. Like, we have to put a pin on the map and say, this is the date or the window, and we'd have to do it. So we picked late May of 2024 as that spot on the calendar. And now we're working towards that and learning a lot because I've never done this before. So I have a lot to learn, but we're pushing through it. We're trying to make it a 5-day road book rally, just like the real rallies. We're going to go from a point just east of Reno, Nevada, for those of you who know where that is, and head towards Winnemucca for day one. So that'll be a point-to-point section. and then run loops from Winnemucca for the other 4 days for a 5-day rally. And we chose that area because that is one of the biggest BLM jurisdictions, the Winnemucca Field Office. If you don't know, races that are point to point, you have to get it permitted and approved by every BLM office you're crossing through. It isn't like there's a central office that can do that. So you have to work with each office individually. So a friend of mine who used to organize races for Vora suggested, for your first year, make it easier. Just work with one office as opposed to having to work with multiple offices just because you crossed, the arbitrary line of a BLM jurisdiction. Those lines are arbitrary in that it's actually in 3 different counties, but it's one BLM office.
Interesting.
So, I've had to learn a lot. There's many different maps and none of the lines will line up. So you start in one county, go through a second county, finish in a third county, but you're all in one BLM jurisdiction.
Yeah. Well, and I can imagine that gets tricky. You get into a point where, okay, well, I want to go from here to here, but it just so happens that 10 kilometers of it cross over into another jurisdiction for BLM. Now you got to go talk to them, even though you're only going to be there for 6 miles.
Exactly. That office has to approve. They have a special use permit person, and then they have a GIS person. And you give it to one person and they hand it off to the next person who then compares it to the master, GPS, GIS file of approved routes to see if it can be done there. So hence the reason to stay with one BLM office. And they've been very helpful. I mean, they have, like anywhere, they have a process. So all we have to do is follow the process. Right? I'm an engineer. I can follow a process. So it isn't that it can't be done. I'm sure that as I submit routes, some of them may have hiccups. Okay, so I can't go down this dirt road. Can I go down that dirt road? Like, where are the boundaries of whether it's a fauna or an animal or something that they're concerned about? How do we get around that piece? So I just feel that's part of the challenge of putting it together. It's not a no, it's a but. Yeah. So I can work around that.
Yeah. You just have to follow, like you said, it's just following the process.
Follow the process, and they, like I said, there are many, there's as in the desert, we have 3 or 4 other race groups in Northern Nevada that organize, shorter looped dirt bike races, maybe a 30-mile loop or a 40-mile loop. So they're used to getting these applications. And they actually did share with me some files of, here's a few previously run and approved races. So as I get near them, I can, hop onto one of those pieces. And when Dave and I were riding back in June, this path we riding went forward once. We're like, hey, let's take that and see where it goes. And it was a spectacular little trail. I think if that becomes one of the days, there could be some cursing as they get through certain sections of it. I wouldn't say true Erzberg-like, but maybe Erzberg light. There could be some adventures, and I'll probably have to position a crew there to maybe help push, pull, and drag some of the bikes up some sections of it. But those who know me, I'm always the last guy in, right? I mean, I've done rallies in Baja since 2015. I'm always pretty much the last guy. But I got through. Yeah. So, just saying now, it wasn't pretty, but there were no points for style, right? It was just to get up to the top of it.
Yeah. So, at that point, it's just the survival side of it, and the fact that you picked Erzberg as the comparison, may or may not raise a flag.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, Erzberg light. Yeah. So not quite, but I'm sure as I was riding up to it, I was thinking like, that's not possible. And I go, well, somebody else did it, so I got a chance. And again, no points for style, but got up it. And then, probably it was one of those things like every piece of a rally or race, right? 10 miles later, you're like, oh, wow, that wasn't so bad because I got to this section. It's spectacular. So maybe it was worth it after all. And by the end of the day, you're like, let's do it again. All is forgotten. You're ready to fuel up and hit it again. So, BLM's been really supportive. We've met with sheriff's departments in the areas. They're very supportive. One of the sergeants who's in charge of special events, first thing he said was like, well, where do I sign up? I'm like, whoa. We're not quite there yet, right? We're just getting started. But he races the odd Baja race. And he's like, I've heard of these. I've always wanted to do one, but never knew like where to, how to, whatever. It was in my backyard. It was, I have to do this.
Yeah.
So the local response has been really, really positive from law enforcement, city manager, visitors authorities. That sort of thing has been really uplifting. As I was talking to Raleigh Dave last week, and I'm like, one day I'm thinking this will never happen. It's crazy to think we could do it. And the next day I'm like, oh, this will be so great. It'll be spectacular. It's going to happen. It'll be, one of the better events we can put together. Because our goal is to make it, a high quality event. I'm trying to think of all the things that as I've done rallies, like, boy, it sure would be nice if we had X, and make sure we have X. Yeah. Like a wash station in the bivouac, so everybody can wash their bikes off before they go work on them. I mean, that's easy, right? And the spot we're looking at for the bivouac has an area that they've said we can use as a wash-off bay. They have water, concrete pad, a drain. They're like, no problem. So that way, as riders come in at the end of the day, before they have to do an oil change or, repair a clutch or whatever, they can at least wash the bike off. As opposed to using, 3 cans of contact cleaners to get all the mud off. So.
Much more environmentally friendly.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh, totally. And much more cost effective because, we're all on budgets, right? Yeah. Hey, 3 4 cans of contact cleaner was a down payment to another business or something. So,
well, unless we get the guys from Maxima to help out. But
true.
So Jen, tell me a little bit about your involvement. I know Ken and Dave doing the routes. What have you been up to?
So I'm more on the logistics side. So I'm obviously dealing with all those people that he just talked about. I went and met with the sheriffs and the visitor authority and handling food, because, that's always a big hot topic. So just all of those kinds of scenarios. While he's out riding, I'm in town talking to people, getting the word out, trying to, make new friends in the area so that we could have really good support for when everybody's there.
Nice. And how, with the people that you've met, I mean, has everybody's been on board? Have you been talking to some of the towns, some of the small restaurants, that kind of stuff? Or
Yeah, so not so much a couple of the restaurants based off of food listings and such, but there's a off-road store in town. They have dirt bikes and side-by-sides and all that kind of stuff, and they're fully engaged. So one of the things that we're going to try to work on is having them present at the bivouac to maybe change tires or help change tires to make things a little faster. Have an oil dumping station there that, we're working on seeing if they can provide that for us so that we don't have to lug it out ourselves. And the fact that they have a full store there, they're going to stock up on things ahead of time for us. Tire sizes, moose bibs, all those kinds of things in case people do run out of them. It's really, really close because the town is not very big. So, just having that all accessible, people are very excited for this. So they're all in, they're engaged, and they're ready to get a list of all the things that, we might need during that time frame so that they can stock up ahead of time. And just even the hotels, they're good in case people do want to hotel it. The bivouac itself is the fairgrounds where we'll be staying, and they do have hookups. So we're going to rent out a whole section. And so if people want to bring trailers, we have full hookups for that. They can tent camp there as well. That's where all the food will be served as well. But there are hotels nearby in case people do want to hotel it as well. So
nice.
So just options. And it's all very close. Like I said, this town is, it's like a 4 stoplight town.
Okay.
So not very big. So pretty much you can get through it with a blink of an eye. So everything is really close.
Yeah, only 1 comma in the population.
Yes, that is correct.
Hey, but that's good. I mean, and what's really awesome about it, so it sounds like you guys picked the right area. I think I 100% agree. And that was great advice that you guys got on, like, hey, just keep it in one jurisdiction. And the fact that there's a small town nearby, everything is there. I mean, that I think this really sets it up. How many miles or / kilometers are we thinking across the 5 days? I'm
trying to make each day around 240 miles. Except for the final day. The other days will be about 240 miles for the day. That gives me a gas stop at 120 miles. Ish, probably, maybe some I've plotted are like 122 miles, just for fuel range and fuel capacity. And so far, all the loops I've written, I've been able to get to a gas station in that loop, so that you come, you leave the bivouac or the start line, and 120 miles after you've started your day, you're at a gas station. And as the organizer, I'll provide the fuel. I'll have somebody there during a neutralization section to put the gas in. Mm-hmm. But then we're not having to lug gas out in the middle of nowhere or have pit crews. That was just a piece of the puzzle. I'm sure there's probably a rule on how many gallons of gas you can carry in a trailer before you have to have a permit and placards and all sorts of other regulations. So it seemed easiest to just always have the fuel stops where there are gas stations. And I've been able to get all my loops to somehow configure around to hit a gas station. So 120 miles, fuel stop, 120 miles back. So each day at about 240, maybe 250 miles per day, except the last day, the 5th day, we would run a shorter loop, so that we have time to get everybody in, get cleaned up, and have an awards banquet and celebratory dinner type thing for the winners, and maybe there's a prize for the, like longest on stage or something, longest on the course, because that usually me, but it won't be me this time. That sometimes also deserves an award, because that person, is either really persistent or too stupid to give up. But they stay on the bike, they keep going, no matter what. If it's push, pull, or dragging it in, they want to keep going. But so the 5th day would be a shorter day, but the other days would be 250 miles per day.
The Perseverance Award.
Yes,
I like it.
Yeah. Certainly worth recognizing somehow. And I think the car does it, or used to do it, where the first person on the podium was the person who had spent the longest time. Well, he had the longest time. He was the guy that was on the course the longest. I guess he enjoyed it the most because he didn't want to have it end.
Yeah, I mean, we could look at it that way.
Yeah, or I know.
Life is about perspective.
Correct. And I know some people sometimes decide to take an extra loop out there somewhere. Maybe they miss a turn. They're like, oh, let's go this way instead for a while.
Yeah.
Just to, again, increase their appreciation of the environment.
Correct.
By riding extra miles.
Yeah. Like, I know the road book told me to go left, but the view to the right is much better. So I'm just going to go check that out.
Yeah. Or even as I've been trying to scout my routes, I'll be on this great road. Oh, this is awesome. And I look down and go, oh, I was supposed to turn 10 miles back there. Okay, well, it was a nice ride.
Yeah.
Great road, good views. Who can complain?
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll just go another couple K.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, maybe there's a place to grab a sandwich or something up ahead.
You never know.
So,
So,
and also, I was going to say, with the fuel stops being at gas stations and part of the neutralization, as neutralization, right, you have, let's say, 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Well, you can stay longer if you want. So if you want to grab an ice cream, grab a candy bar, grab a taco, that's up to you then. But you have water and food and options right there, as these gas stations have their little, convenience mart next to it. If people want to take an extra 10 minutes because they're tired or whatever, we'll have shade tents so that people can sit down and recover if they need to before going on. Just as a sanity check, make sure everybody's okay. If they need nourishment, they need more water, we'll have water. But if they want to get a Coke or a Monster or a Red Bull or something, they can hit the gas station and take care of that too.
Nice. Yeah, that makes it super convenient. And then obviously you're back in town, you got everything you need, and I mean, it's a competitive rally. Yeah, you could take a little bit longer. I mean, neutralization could be 10 minutes. That's enough to top off and grab a quick snack. Clean the goggles. Sort yourself out. That kind of thing. So I'm curious. What was the name of the town that we're going to?
That's Winnemucca.
Winnemucca.
Yeah. North central Nevada. It's
off of
probably
Highway 80.
Yeah, it's right on I-80.
Okay. See it. City.
Which is the big, I-80 runs from San Francisco to New York. It's like the big highway across east-west that all the freight ends up on, but Winnemucca is probably halfway across the state.
Yeah.
So it's mile marker 180 from the California border.
Okay.
So it's like 165 miles from Reno.
Yeah.
On the highway. Yeah.
Nice. We've got the Humboldt Museum. We've got some park. This is actually, this is rad.
It's a cool little town. Its entire industry is mining based. Mm-hmm. Lots of mines, gold, sand. They just approved a lithium mine north of there, right along the border with Idaho. So mining is a big thing.
Yeah,
that's kind of why it exists. But it's a decent little town. I mean, it's got a bike shop and UTVs. I mean, that's that in itself, knowing there's some place you can go to that might have the shift lever you broke or whatever is a huge plus.
Yeah. Is that Sonoma Cycle?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, that's kind of cool. Cause then what I'm thinking is like, okay, well, if I got to get some stuff, if I know I'm going to need some supplies or whatever it is, I could probably call them ahead of time or place an order and then just go pick it up.
Pick it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be rad. So Sonoma Cycle.
Yeah.
The other nice thing about Winnemucca is they actually have a hospital and they have a full EMS department that is owned by the hospital. And so they do events like this all the time. And they actually have their own off-road vehicles to get out into the desert. And they know the desert very well because there is a high prevalence of racers out there or just people who are out there riding all the time. So their EMS system is set up for extractions and so on and so forth. And we are working with them to have an EMS basically sitting at the bivouac every day in the afternoon when people arrive. In case there's anything going on, they can at least be seen.
Nice. Yeah, that is.
So it's always that debate, right? Like does my shoulder hurt enough? Like, what is enough? Maybe a professional should assess it. And we can still be like, an x-ray, I'm sure it's fine, right? But if somebody else, if two other people say, you should probably get an x-ray, maybe you should get an x-ray. Mm-hmm. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because sometimes it's a little, something that's a little bit of a bother is maybe taking some medication away from not bothering you the next day or not doing anything about it. And then the next day's stage is the longest stage of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and the old adage goes, if you have it there, you're less likely to need it. So if we have, healthcare present, hopefully we won't need it.
Yeah. Very good point. Nice. So what's the terrain like in that area? I mean, you mentioned a little bit earlier, Ken, about kind of Erzberg-ish in some sections, but what's the majority of it like?
The majority is, we'll say, standard desert. Either 2-track or single track, packed sandish with some rocks, lower bushes. There are some areas where that go through some mountain passes that are quite rocky. Mm-hmm. There are some areas of some sand dunes. Mm-hmm. Nowhere near, Sonora sand dunes, but sand nonetheless, mm-hmm. So we can get into some of that, which will be nice. And that pretty much covers it there. There was one half stage I rode. I think I had 5 or 6 water crossings.
Ooh, nice.
Just the way this, yeah. And some of them were deeper than I was expecting. So actually one of them was like 3 in a row, and I actually stopped and got off and walked through and was like, okay, so for this first piece, I want to be near the left. The next piece, I want to be to the right. Mm-hmm. And the next piece, I kind of split the difference. But that one had several water crossings, which was unexpected for me anyway. So that certainly kind of made things a bit more interesting. And that was in a bit of a valley-ish area that was certainly, small trees, not heavy forest, but you're riding a little trail through some trees. And as time has evolved, the road has been breached by water a few times, and they make some ish repairs to it and some not. So that was a fun day, just having all those water crossings thrown in. I was by myself, so I'm like, okay, if I start to fall, I want to put the bike so air filter is up just in case, and stay near the edge so I know which way to throw the bike if I start to tumble, and throw it into a bush so the bush can catch it. So didn't want to have to pull the spark plug, put the bike upside down, try and get the water out of it. And fortunately, didn't have to. Yeah. Made it through. Again, no points for style, but nobody was watching, so it was perfect.
Nice.
Well, and the water is, this last year we had a pretty large winter here in Nevada. So good runoff from snow and things like that. So we'll see what, next spring brings us, depending on what this winter is like as well.
Nice. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we did have, I've still heard that some of the areas of, the Northern Mojave are still closed. I haven't checked the part of the SoCal BDR because of the snowfall that we've got. That is still, there's a lot of snow up, I guess, still in that area. So I would imagine that up in some of these areas is still pretty washed out, and hopefully we don't have too much rain, just enough rain.
Right. Yeah, we typically get more snow than rain. Rain is pretty rare here.
Okay. So then then it just becomes the game of the runoff.
Exactly.
All right.
Yep.
Well, that's not bad. And yeah, with water crossings, helps wash the bike, cool you off if it's a hotter day. And speaking of which, May. It's not the summer, so I'm guessing 70s, 80s.
That's the hope. It's really hit or miss in Northern Nevada. We could still have some winter going on, so you never know on that, or we could have an early summer. We don't typically get too hot up here though, because our elevation is a little bit higher. Obviously we get snow. So to be honest, right now, September 2nd, it is 65 degrees today. Okay. Random. However, we were at 97 degrees 4 days ago.
Okay.
So, so there's a big gap, but typically we don't get hot summers until August, late July, early August. So, we're not looking at overheating anybody or anything like that.
Yeah. Good. So, it'll be good rally weather. It'll be good riding weather. And it doesn't sound like it'll be too challenging. I think they'll get a good tour of Nevada.
Exactly.
Nice. So I'm curious about this because this is I remember that Kent actually came up to me and we talked about this. I think it was not last year's, maybe the year before Baja Rally or Sonora. They're all blending together between Baja and Sonora. They were kind of close this past year.
Right.
Do you recall the very first conversation about doing this rally between you and Kent?
Oh, I know over the years since I started joining him doing rallies, he's always talked about this would be great, to do it in the US, to do something like this, but not as a serious conversation, more so this would just be a really cool idea. And I would say a couple of years ago after a Baja, maybe after an injury on the way home, there was a conversation about, if I wasn't riding on a bike, maybe putting one of these on would be fun. And so just started talking about all the ideas of what we enjoyed about rallies. And then, from our different experiences, because obviously I don't ride. So I have a very different experience of what the rally is and the viewpoint of what that is, being in the bivouac all day or driving from bivouac to bivouac. So I see that different side. And so we just started having conversations about the different sides of what we see and what we think we would like to improve on or, keep the same because it works so well. But seeing if that's something that was doable here. And that conversation happened on a long, 9 or 11 hour trip drive back from Mexico back to Reno. And it kind of grew from there. So when we got back, we kind of started talking about a little bit more. We really didn't plan any of the actual logistics until we got an LLC and kind of got all that started. We wanted to make sure we could actually back it up on the front of the website, making sure we got domains, all of that stuff handled before we even leaked a peep to anybody about the topic of this. So, and so now that we have all those, now we're forced into following through with the other side. So.
But I mean, this is great. I mean, the website's great. I mean, very clean. It sounds like you guys, the program's looking really good. I love the idea that it's right by a small town, and the Bivouac is centrally located. So it just logistically makes it so much easier for the teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Victor with the Chasing Waypoints podcast. Hey, super quick break in the episode. Want to talk about really quick about Spotify for podcasters. If you are interested in getting your story out to the world, starting your own podcast, it is super, super simple. Head on over to spotify.com/podcasters and get all of the information. It is a one-stop shop. You can edit, you can do Q&A, you can do video podcasts, all sorts of different things in one platform. They handle all of the distribution for you, so it is super, super simple and effective. So with that being said, guys, let's get back to the episode. So let's see. So what about Kent? I heard you disconnected, but you're back.
I'm back now. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure. I dropped off a couple of times, so we'll try this now.
Oh, no.
What did I miss?
We were just talking about the first conversation. I mean, like all the way back to where like, maybe this should happen in the U.S.
Yeah, like I said, I heard some of what Jen said, and that's accurate. And I heard many times it couldn't be done. And then when I found the book, the Nevada Rally book. Mm-hmm. At first, it was only on Kindle. And so this was probably, 8 years ago. I'm like, well, they did it. Maybe we can. And then it bounced around. Boy, 2 years ago, I actually formed the LLC. And then when that got approved, it was like, oh, I guess I have to do it now, right? I mean, because
exactly.
I was like, oh.
At this point.
Uh-oh. Yeah. And then when the trademark got approved for the name and the logo, I'm like, okay, now I need to have a website. And it was like, okay, the ball started rolling. I go, well, I said I want to do this, and if all this stuff happened, I guess I can do it. And so we started, really thinking like, okay, what? And then last summer, a year ago, so summer of 22, Jen and I did a little road trip around all the rural communities of Eastern Nevada just for something to do. And I got out a Nevada map, and I just drew like a big circle. Said, there's a loop. Obviously, this first one's not a loop. Mm-hmm. Probably wise. The plan is that year 2, there will be a year 2.
Or three.
You're right. It may take us to year 3 to get a loop together. Mm-hmm. That would start and end around Reno, but go maybe something like, if you have a map, Winnemucca, Eureka, which is down on Highway 50-ish, mm-hmm. down to Caliente, which is southeastern Nevada, near Alamo, Caliente, back to Tonopah, Hawthorne, and in by Carson City, Dayton area.
Nice.
That would give us a pretty good loop of Nevada. And having ridden some of those areas, you would then see everything that Nevada has, because some of those areas have, high mountain forests, which when I first rode through it, I'm like, I really had no clue this was in Nevada even, because it reminded me of where I grew up in northern Alberta in Canada, mm-hmm. because of the density of the trees and just the smell of the trees and the dirt. I'm like, this looks just like northern Alberta, but I'm pretty sure that I'm in Nevada still. So nice. That loop, once we do that loop, it's like, okay, that's the big goal, is the loop. And then talking to some people, they're like, first time out, make life easier for yourself, make it successful.
Yeah.
And measure success. David Pearson said, measure success. 10 guys show up and everybody has fun. Mm-hmm. That's a win.
Yeah.
That's a win. I go, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Right. If we just have fun and 10 will come, fantastic. Yeah. I'm not sure how many will come, and we haven't really figured out if we're going to, we're going to have to cap it, because this is our first year. We want it to be successful and fun and everybody leaves happy, mm-hmm. with perhaps a smaller number than a larger number. And people are like, oh, they ran out of food, or this wasn't right, or that wasn't right. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to pick somehow a number like, this is the number that is the most we can handle and be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that seems very smart. I mean, and the cool part about the rally side of it, and kind of what you're saying is, okay, well, this is the benchmark. And here are the road books that are in this area. And then next time it's, okay, well, we're going to go one jurisdiction over, or maybe 2, or maybe go to the next. And then, make road books into that. So now you got 2 jurisdictions, 2 bivouacs, and next thing you know, year 3, it might even be the year you could go all the way around.
Right.
Depending on it. So,
yeah, because it's not just jurisdictions; it's also the whole traveling roadshow.
Mm-hmm.
I've done rallies, and we volunteered at a couple of them, and to do it well, the whole moving the bivouac, you truly need, like the car does, 2 of everything, because it's almost impossible to disassemble everything and move it and have it set up at the next place before the first riders get there.
Mm-hmm.
So you almost need to have 2 of everything, and then have volunteers who leave the night before, the day before, and their job is to just leapfrog ahead and put up some tents in a welcoming area so that when the first rider shows up and the first support team shows up, there's someone to say, oh yeah, park over there. Here's some water and snacks, whatever. Here's the pressure washer, wash the bikes off. You have that stuff set up for them already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point, because I remember that back in the Baja Rally days, that it was the same. It was like, okay, you have to plan out, okay, what is the latest time I can leave to make to the next bivouac? And in my case, it was to make sure that we have timing and scoring set up so that we don't, now you're racing the first rider.
So, yeah. Well, exactly. I've mentioned to you, Victor, you have to have Do It Please podcast with the volunteers and the support crews, because they have their own rally, right? Somehow they get directions worse than the riders, and they're on the roads, right?
Yes.
I'm like, how come they get worse directions than the riders do? And they're not even they don't even get numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They should have their own competition, who doesn't get lost or who can find the best gas station or something, because that is a whole separate little race. And, I volunteered at Sonora this past spring. Jen and I both did. And it was the first time I'd ever volunteered. And it was a totally different event.
Yeah.
It just was. And that, I envision that in Dakar, how the really big trucks now race, the Kamas and the Ivecos. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming they used to be the support vehicle only. And then 2 of them said, hey, I'll race you to the next bivouac. And all of a sudden, hence now we have them racing on the course, but it probably started with the bivouac race. I can beat the next one, or I'll beat you to the first gas stop. And pretty soon it was it's like, hey, let's just race these things.
as Mo Harga, the garbage trucks.
Yes, the garbage trucks. Yes.
Which is, and anytime you go riding with a group of friends, somebody's going to want to get there first. Maybe not all of them are interested in that, but there's going to be at least 2 guys in a group of 3 that want to get there first. So, yeah, but it makes it interesting, and you're absolutely right. And and Jen, I've seen you at multiple events, chasing Kent around, in the truck and going through that. So, how accurate is that? Is it definitely another event for you? Is it a race for you as well, or a rally?
Yeah. There was actually one time that the directions took me on the race course. And so I saw Mike Johnson pass me while I'm driving. But also, down in Mexico, it's a little different because of the kilometers per hour for driving, and they're a little slower. And I have kind of a lead foot, so I get pulled over kind of regularly. So hoping that doesn't happen up here. But yeah, no, it is definitely a different, I have learned to get myself through Mexico all by myself without speaking Spanish.
Nice.
And surviving. But, I get to see things that Kent never got to see. Actually, my favorite was in Sonora. I think it was the first year I did Sonora. Or maybe it was the second. We went through this little town, so it wasn't all of the coast. And I got to stop and I got to go into this beautiful Catholic church, and this little old lady who was cleaning and running it. Again, no Spanish on my part, no English on her part. She totally showed me the whole place. And then she fed me lunch.
Oh.
And then I got to get back in the truck and keep on. And I still made it to the bivouac in time, or to the next fuel stop in time. But it was just amazing to see all the towns that most people don't actually get to see. because we go to bigger places, right? We vacation at resorts or whatever. And when you think of Nevada, you think of Vegas. That is what everybody thinks of. Like, I cannot tell you how many times friends have said, hey, we should get together for dinner. I'm in Vegas. And I go, yeah, that's an 8-hour drive for me. Not going to make it for dinner, And so people don't know what Nevada's about. And it is beautiful. So this is kind of bringing all that together.
Nice. And I mean, that's awesome. And I agree with that there is on both sides. I think at least rally routes traditionally won't follow, especially like the stuff down in Baja. They won't follow the traditional race course that everybody gets to see. So the people out on the course get to see something completely different. But because of that and the remote locations, that also means that the crews are going to go into towns that maybe they never got to explore, little communities, like in the Sonora Rally, with some of the, I'm going to say not the reservations, but the lands that are still occupied by the indigenous people, the tribes that are still there, So
right.
It's really, really cool. It's like, it really is a whole cultural experience.
Definitely. Yeah.
That is nice. And I'm looking at the map. I'm seeing all these green areas and peaks, Kent, like you were saying. I mean, there's high elevation stuff in there, all scattered throughout the Winnemucca area that I can see.
Yeah.
So,
it's much different than what you see if you just drive on I-80.
Yeah.
Right. If you just take the biggest highway, it's nothing like when I mentioned going down to like Eureka on Highway 50, Highway 50, named the loneliest highway in America, probably for good reason. But you see some spectacular views, and there's little tiny towns that you've just had 2 hours of flat white desert. And then there's a mountain pass and there's trees and bushes and greenery. And you're like, wow. Or you mentioned Caliente down by Alamo. When we were there, there's 2 state parks 30 miles apart. And one of them is this desert rock, really deep ravines. And the other one is right next to a natural spring. So it's all green and has a little like naturally spring fed spa where you can go soak in it. And they're 30 miles apart.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So, I guess like anywhere else, anywhere you go, there's that much diversity, but people just know what they see in the brochures or when they go to the biggest airport.
Yeah, exactly. They don't get to see, what they see from the airplane when they got the window seat. But that obviously, is not going to be much. And I'm looking. I'm on the website right now. It's battlebornrally.com, and just looking at the pictures, all of them have some green in it. I mean, this is so it's very, like you guys are saying, is very different from the typical quote unquote Nevada desert that we're used to seeing. Being further up north. I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And we chose the name because Nevada is the Battleborn state. That is the motto.
State motto.
Yeah, exactly. So that is where we got Battleborn Rally from.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say so we got and it's like a little crest. But tell me about the rabbits.
Those are desert hares. Desert hare.
Yeah. The big ears.
If you, every time I go riding, I see at least one.
Okay.
And it's just like, it's truly like the game of Frogger, right? Like you're on some trail and you'd see one like float across and then they see you and they dart back in front of you. Then they try and outrun you for a little bit and then they finally just leave. So it's just like, oh no, I don't want to run this little guy over. And you try not to fall and he finally or she finally realizes, just get out of the way. Mm-hmm. But pretty much every time I go out, I will see a desert hare.
Nice. Part of the local wildlife.
Exactly. Yep.
So,
but I mean, last time I was out, I saw 3 deer and a baby elk.
Nice.
So, and a bunch of open range cattle, because there's a lot of open range cattle. But yeah, there is a pretty nice variation of wildlife that you might see. So just like when I've raced some of the score races, right? I mean, one year I did San Felipe and it was kind of foggy, and all of a sudden at mile 10, we're in the middle of this herd of cattle. Everybody has to come to a stop because it's foggy. You can't see where the cows are. They're not seeing you are moving. So it was this little kind of quasi-neutralization stage as we weave through all the cows, then to resume race speed.
Mm-hmm. And which is, I mean, is part of the, it's obviously it's part of the adventure, getting to experience the wildlife and being in these areas. I'm kind of curious about something though, and some of the other rallies that have been stateside, being on BLM land. What is the bike restrictions like? I mean, are we going to have, turn signals, mirrors, all of
the BLM spark arrestor?
Okay.
I spoke with the sheriff's office and I said, I will require license plates because we're going to be on public roads. And I asked, I said, now, however, I find a mirror to be a hazard because I can get impaled on them. And he's like, totally. Yeah. He goes, I don't want you getting impaled. Yeah. No mirrors. Yeah.
That's,
that's like, you're just asking for trouble. I go, turn signals. I go, I don't want to litter broken turn signals because I've left so many in the desert. I just take them off. He goes, yeah. Also, why would you have something else to impale yourself on? Yeah, so he's like a license plate, vehicle insurance, and then ride respectfully. And I said, totally. I go, if we're on public roads, like when we do our liaisons, right, there'll be speed. And I said, and I'm using Rally Comp, thank you, Mike Johnson, for agreeing to add me to your calendar of busy events for timing and scoring. I can control speed and set penalties. And obviously if they're speeding on a public road, that's just like if it was me and my car or truck driving between towns. If I get pulled over for speeding, that's on me. Said, now I can penalize them on time, but if somebody misbehaves on a public road, that's on them. He's like, thank you.
Not only,
they get a bonus souvenir.
Yeah.
Well, obviously that's the thing is this, I'll go with it. I'll use the term, it's a gentleman's sport. And so it's basically everybody's usually well behaved, but
yes,
if you get caught speeding and you're on a liaison, there is a time. So it's just like being late to work. So not only do you get a time penalty, you also get a ticket, which could increase the time penalty because, it takes them a while to run your license plate.
Yeah, exactly. Check your driver's license history. Did you pay that speeding ticket, that from Nevada from 5 years ago, maybe you forgot about? It can all add up. Yeah. But as far as, on the BLM sections, on the race sections, those are race sections. Both BLM and the sheriff's department are like, those are race sections. Yeah. And what I've offered to the sheriff's department is once I have the routes approved, I'll send it to them. So if there's sections on like dirt roads, because obviously a county road, his description was, if it's seen a grader in the last 5 years, it's probably a county road, which does have a speed limit. He goes, but I also know this is a race. And if the grader hasn't been there for 5 years, it's probably not very traveled.
Yeah.
So he said, we can work out okay, in this section, don't exceed 60 miles an hour. And I offered back. However, as a courtesy to be a good neighbor, if it's near a ranch, like we do, in Baja or Sonora, if you're passing a ranch, you slow down.
Yeah.
Just to less dust, the kids could be out playing and a ball rolls across the road or whatever, right? If you're passing a ranch, you slow down.
Yeah.
I said, then whatever, half a kilometer after the ranch, resume race speed. He goes, oh, I love that. He goes, that's fantastic. No, we want to be good neighbors. We want to make sure that they want us to come back the next year. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I mean, in something like that, okay, well, there's a power sports shop in town. So it's just as easy, support the local businesses, support the local people, and
exactly.
You get invited back. And I like that too about, the speed zones in front of a ranch or, something of interest like that, where I saw it. It was interesting as I saw it on some of the road books at Sonora Rally this past year, where the FIA had more control, or I should say ASO had more control over the road book creation. I think maybe even 100%, but there was speed zones in the middle of nowhere.
Really?
For no rhyme or reason, I saw a couple of them, and then later heard some from the riders about it. It's like, well, wait, how is there a speed zone out here in the middle of nowhere? But then I thought about it, and I'm going, this is how they break it up. I mean, if you're not paying attention, you could hit a 100-meter speed zone, and you'll be in and out of it before you even had a chance to pull the brakes. if you're not paying attention.
Right.
Interesting. That's a fun little tidbit.
Yeah. So I hope nobody kills me. I've just been canceled in the rally community for suggesting that was a thing.
I'll put in the notes section, courtesy of Victor.
Yeah.
This random speed zone in the middle of this perfectly flat dry lake bed.
Mm-hmm. Brought to you in part by brought to you proudly by Chasing Waypoints. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the Chasing Waypoints, the CW speed zone. That's what But I mean, there was and I saw it on one of the ones where I saw or heard the comments was on a hill. So it was like they were controlling the speed going up the hill is what it seemed like, but it was a speed where it was almost questionable whether or not you were going to make it up the hill at that speed. So it's it's interesting, but then again, it's the game of rally,
right? Yeah. But that's still kind of evil.
Yeah, I mean it's evil and probably generally frowned upon, but at the same time, it's like that's what separates it, and ropes everybody back in to a certain extent. And I mean, and that's that could have just been tests for future Dakar. Where they've been working very hard at limiting the top speed of the riders and slowing the pace down. And I mean, this could just literally be something like that they were maybe trying out. So,
right.
I don't know. But I mean, this is this is awesome. I'm happy to hear, how far along this is. I mean, is there, with it being in May, are you guys close to finalizing the detail, like finalizing the routes and finalizing, the logistics and things like that? How close are we to that finish line?
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, I intend to put all the deposit money down for the bivouac probably by the end of September, and then we'll then publish the dates. We're looking end of May, but we're just working with the Convention and Visitor Authority to double check all their other commitments because they do the rural areas. They have a host of other events, rodeos and such, and this is sort of the hub for the.
Oh, I think we lost him.
Uh-oh.
Yep, he cut out.
Oh.
So I'll take over that one. Yeah, there's a lot of rodeos and auctions, cow auctions out there. So it's a very large event center out there. So we're actually leaving tomorrow to head to Winnemucca again for some more writing, or him writing, and hopefully get the routes submitted probably mid-September to BLM to get approval. They only request 6 months notice or advance to approve them, but we're really trying to just be ahead of the game and get them approved and back to us to see if there's anything we need to fix. So we're not lagging on that. Yeah. And then everything else is kind of in line. The only thing left is not figuring out, but agreeing to who we want to use for food. Okay. So that's kind of my working relationship right now is trying to figure out who we like the best. And, because it is rural Nevada, it is harder there's just not a lot out there. Right. So, to handle an event like this, that's going to be 5 days. We want it to be someone who's really consistent and really good at that. And so we might be actually bringing somebody with us from Reno to do that. Yeah. So,
no, well, that makes sense. I mean, we obviously we want to support the local, community, but there's a couple communities that you guys work through. I mean, we're both Reno local businesses and then, up in Winnemucca, but this is great. I mean, it's getting ready to finalize, getting ready, the last riding, the road books and stuff like that. Happy to hear Mike with Rally Comp on board and helping the event. So that's going to be awesome.
Yep. And we're also working with Kira and Justin for media stuff.
Awesome.
So we've been conversing a lot with them recently. So they're going to be at the event as well to help us with all of that. So, we're really trying to make it, the community that we know of Rally, we really want to make sure that all those pieces are still hit. Mm-hmm. All the people that we've met over the years that we know are helpful, that we're tapping into all of that.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Well, and I mean, and it's the Rally family, all these people, everybody knows everybody, everybody else in the bivouac, we're always hanging out around each other, and it's just one of those, it's just the scene. So it's cool to have that in other places. See the same people, familiar faces in some completely different place of the country. Other than Mexico, Baja California.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's also something that would be nice to grow in the U.S. I mean, these rallies that go on in Mexico are, as amazing as they are, there are still people who don't want to go to Mexico. They're scared of Mexico, which is crazy to me, but that's just the way it is. And so they just won't do it. And so, to have something here in the U.S. that they feel more comfortable with at least getting their feet wet in it, or maybe it's not as far of a drive for them, and so starting it here, then they might venture out and end up going to Mexico for a rally. That's something that we are really interested as well, is to, just grow the community even more than what it is, because it is an amazing community.
Yeah. I 100% agree. It's always a lot of fun hanging out, all the whole time, right? Not just in between the bivouacs or running into people at the gas station because everybody's fueling up, going to the next bivouac, or tracking or results or any of that stuff. So it's always for those that have not experienced it. I've said it before on the show that it's one of those things, like, if you haven't, volunteer for a rally and see what it's really about. And And I agree. There are, like you said, there's still a ton of people that don't, it's like, I don't want to go to Mexico. I don't want to, the assumption is that the cartels are waiting as soon as they cross the border to kidnap them.
Right.
Or, all the other stories. And I mean, it's media. They want to talk about those things and so on and so forth. But
well, heck, don't go to Chicago then. I mean,
I know, right? Yeah, and make sure that you're not in downtown LA past 11 p.m.
Or San Francisco at this point, right?
Or San Francisco, or yeah. I mean, if I firmly believe if you're looking for trouble or are not aware of where trouble is and the time of and the operating hours, it will find you. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, this is going to be cool. And so do we have, Kent, do you have, or do you guys have, we're thinking end of September before we get the official dates. And I see that on the website, you can already register.
Well,
that's just
that's
like a newsletter. That's just so we have contact information to reach people. And as I've gotten emails, I've responded back, and I've gotten requests from a few different countries, even as people have seen it and just say, okay, we're still finalizing, but I would think that end of September, mid-October, I'll have the dates published so people can start locking calendars. But I would not expect to have registration open until near the end of the year, just as we're trying to figure out, again, first time through, how much does all these pieces cost, right? How much will it cost to get all the food there that we want? Because we want, like I say, we want to make sure that we have stuff people remember. Mm-hmm. We want to have good catering and good services.
Yeah, no food poisoning, right?
We don't want that replication of, I won't say which rally, but I believe it was 2016. There was the infamous undercooked chicken on the last bivouac.
Mm-hmm. Chicken tartare.
Yes, made everybody's time the next day a little bit longer as they were stopping for additional stops during the day. Yeah, unplanned pit stops.
Yeah, we'll call them smoke breaks.
Sure, yeah. For those who are lucky enough to have cigarettes, yeah. It was. So we want to make sure we don't have that.
Yeah.
But we'll have some dates out probably end of September, early October, so people can at least start marking their calendars, and then open registration up certainly by the end of the year.
Nice.
And then then we'll take it from there. We'll see how this goes. We'll see if we have 10 really happy riders, or if we have to look at what's our cap number, because it's that popular,
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah,
it's going to be an event.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that's the challenge, right? How big, you want everybody to experience it, but at the same time, you want to make sure that everybody that does experience it has a good time. So then becomes the balance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, you guys have, obviously been doing this for going to the rallies. You've done the homework, done the studying. How far along you guys are already on this, and keeping it under wraps and just pushing things forward, moving it forward. This is awesome. So before anyone else, you guys have done a great job, and that's something to already be proud of. And I can't wait to actually see the event in May, or be at the event. we're working on some things, but yeah. So what else do we need to know? Does anybody, we've already got, battlebornrally.com is the website.
Yeah.
We have Instagram and Facebook up and running now too. So if there's once we have more stuff, that will populate there as well. So if you don't want to keep checking the website regularly, we will post things to Instagram and Facebook. So go and follow us, and then we can you can make sure that you see the alerts when we update them. We'll say, registration is open, or dates have been posted, or all of those kinds of things.
Okay. Yeah, so follow on Instagram, and then right now also you can register, correct, Kent? And for the newsletter type?
Exactly, for the newsletter, yeah. At least then we can keep track of people, yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, and what I was just going to, one thing that when Instagram and Facebook went live, I got several questions on, motorcycles and UTVs. Mm-hmm. And at this point, it will just be motorcycles. Okay. Obviously, UTVs are tricky because they're not street legal. So how do I do a liaison with vehicles that aren't street legal? Do they all go on trailers? It would be adding too many other things for me to figure out at this point. But there certainly was a lot of interest from the UTV community as well. As we see at pretty much any off-road racing event now, the UTV classes in the last 5-10 years have really exploded. But this will be motorcycles only. Yeah. Just for the time, and also, for now, and it allows me to pick certain areas. I can do one road book, and if there's a section that's single track up a ravine, it's okay. I don't have to create a second road book that goes around that because it's too narrow for a side by side. It's just all motorcycles. Yeah. Then it becomes the HP for the for the Correct. Yeah.
You got UTVs, make a right, figure it out.
Figure it out. Yeah. There's a waypoint over there somewhere. Just go find it.
Go find it. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting. Yeah, it does become interesting, and and that's good to hear. The more people that are involved in rally, more people that are looking at doing it, whether it be on a UTV or on a motorcycle, great. The sport continues to grow. It's just obviously logistically, like you said, for the UTVs, it does become a little bit harder. Not being street legal, how do you get them out? And then, when you go up this fancy single track that's got this bitchin' view, how do you get a UTV around that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jen kind of gives me a questionable eye, and I say, maybe next year. And she's like, that could be a little optimistic. I go, okay, in the future. Yeah. I
have to bring him down to earth sometimes because he's just like, sure, we can do whatever. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. But, I agree with it that it is, it's hard. I would think it's hard to put a date because the initial thing to me is like, it's almost like you have to create obviously it's like another class, but you almost have to have somebody else designing the road book or looking for those ways around and then deciding the rules, teching the cars and doing all of these things so that they can have a good event as well. Because it almost ends up being two events. At the rallies that I've worked where UTVs are involved, it's usually vehicles and motos. So then vehicles kind of have their own whole thing going on, different start times, different routes, all of these things, and not completely different, but there are sections where usually there's going to be a go around or something else. So
it's probably like you'd have to make, it's like 1.5 different rallies. It's not quite 2 because there will be some common, but it's like enough different that it's more than just one. But there was a lot of interest, and I said, at this point, and Kira was helping us, and she's like, "Well, are you sure?" I'm like, and I kept like going, maybe, and Jen's like,
"No."
Yeah.
I obviously am becoming the negative Nancy at this, but no.
Yeah. No, and I completely hear you. It is difficulty. And then there's always the same, you worry about rider safety, and having UTVs on the same course as riders and the faster UTVs catching the slower riders. So, while yes, it's cool in the idea and the concept, but it can't be rushed into. And it's hard to even put a time frame on it because the first event hasn't actually happened.
Right. We will though have classes like the other rallies. And we're toying with an idea that we were provided by somebody to have a media class. and invite, journalists from different off-road racing magazines or, things like that to come and race in their own class. And, with the ending result saying that they're going to write about it. Right. Yeah. But, just having that, and having the other classes like the other rallies do as well.
Yeah.
So if somebody like good old Todd Zacher wants to bring his big bike, like he did to Baja that one year, or Brett, right? They like to ride those big bikes. We'll have that as well.
The adventure class. Nice. So yeah, I think that is actually a really good idea. Then that way the media guys are competing, within themselves. It gives them something obviously to write about in an event, and especially with Rally Raid coming up, and growing little by little. I mean, that's
right.
That's a great idea. I think that would be really awesome. So, and I think Jen, did you kick Kent out because he was talking too much UTV?
Yeah. I guess I'm clearly in the bad part of the house for Wi-Fi and cell coverage, because I moved my phone like 4 inches. I'm like, really? So maybe when our middle daughter was complaining about reception in her bedroom, she wasn't actually kidding. Because it does seem pretty questionable here.
As it turns out, yeah.
As it turns out, she was right after all.
Yeah.
I missed it. Did you mention the media class, Jen?
I did. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And that was not our idea. That was a gift. That was a gift from Gnarly Dave, who I have to thank for everyone to hear. Because when I spoke with him, because I've known him since 2015 at Baja Rally. So we stay in touch intermittently. As one of us gets injured, we call the other. And I called him, tell him about this. And he'd heard about it on your podcast last week when Scotty mentioned it. And he was like, really? You can't call me first? So once he got over being hurt feelings, every, 3 times a day, I get this text message like, here's 5 more ideas. I'm like, great, keep them coming. And like the media, I'm going, that's brilliant. I mean, that's a clever one, because they would have a ball. Which magazine has the best performing editor? I mean, they would, like you said, 2 guys get together. There's going to be a race, right? Oh yeah. So just make up a class. Let them do
100%. And I mean, at the end of the day, this is Dave and I talked. Oops. Gnarly Dave and I talked about.
Oh, Dave, yeah. Who's Dave?
Yeah, I know. That's literally what he will tell you if you say that. In talking about it, it's like, it's all about the overall until you're not leading. So it does,
exactly.
Even if you are in the media class, that all of a sudden there's a media guy, you get, I don't know, you get somebody like Quinn Cody, that writing, and he's there because of the podcast or Cycle News or however it is, or Jesse Sigler. And all of a sudden they're top 3 in the rally. And who's this media? What's this media thing? Let's see here. I think I'm experiencing the connection issue, I think. Are you guys still there? What's going on, guys? Victor with the Chasing Waypoints podcast. All right. Are you looking to promote your brand to a worldwide audience on the podcast? Drop us a line at podcast@chasingwaypoints.com and let's talk. See what we can do about getting you some more ears for your company and getting the word out worldwide. I think I lost them. So, I mean, how interesting would that be? Having these guys do their own media class, be able to compete, and then see how they stack up against the field. And then the fact, that how Kent just mentioned that he's getting more and more interest, especially worldwide, is absolutely, is awesome. I mean, how great is that to be able to see the interest from coming across from multiple countries, here in the U.S., you've got rallies like the Kota Rally, you've got a lot of different things going on, and we're able to see the sport grow little by little. I mean, that is absolutely awesome. So I'm looking forward to it. I think that it's going to be a great event. We're looking forward to getting some more information here soon. And see what happens. So unfortunately, I'm now experiencing some connection and technical difficulties that just closed out the conversation with them, which is a bummer. But I will get with them again on this. We've got a lot going on. Let me see, because I don't want to miss any details. of this. So let's get this thing started once again. But I don't know. What do you guys think? So battlebornrally.com is the website if you guys want to check that out. If it is something that you guys are looking at and are interested in maybe learning some rally school stuff, getting ready for these events, want to learn a little bit more about it, let me know. Send me a message and we'll get you guys set up. Let's talk a little bit about getting started. What's the equipment you're going to need? What are the things? I mean, we got a lot of great companies here stateside that we can use. Like MotoMinded has a complete tower setup that you can bolt onto your FE bikes or your KTM onto the Austrian bikes. And then some, there's a ton of stuff. Rally Moto Shop has kits that could just bolt right onto the handlebars, which I'm a fan of, is the Rally Light type setup. So there's a lot of things that you can do with almost no real effort. And if you already have that race bike, you can convert it. If you already have that street legal dual sport, the FE 501s of the world, the FE versions, the EXCs, all the other, all the Hondas that are just out now with the 450s, all of these bikes, all of these are bikes that you can get into the sport fairly easy. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying to figure out what happened here. I think it's, I think we're...
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, are you guys back?
Yeah, we are.
I think it was my turn to have the technical difficulties. And I was literally going to say I was having internet trouble the other day, and I'm glad I wasn't. And, well, that's what I get for thinking about it.
Right.
Yeah. So I was just talking a little, all the street legal bikes, all of this stuff, the interest that you guys have had, for this. So, any closing last things that we need to know, that we should be ready for?
I mean, just come and have a good rally with us.
Yeah.
Come out and have
watch
some
for
fun.
the dates, register, and our goal is to make it a quality event. We want people to have a really good time and just come and see Nevada and ride.
Nice.
Right? Because we all want to be friends, right?
No, this is
Life's
great.
too short to have enemies. We just want to get together, have a good time, see Nevada, ride.
Yeah. So I guess we should encourage people to get over to the website and get registered, because there's a likelihood that there's going to be a limit on how many riders are being allowed into the event this year.
Yes. Yeah. Just to ensure success, or to help assure success.
No, I'm 100% on that. That I think is the biggest thing, especially being, first year of the event, but you guys have had a ton of experience going to different events, participating, volunteering, and all that stuff. So.
Well, and we also picked the end of May so that there's enough gap in between other rallies that we are very fond of, right?
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that for those people who do attend those other rallies, because, the love of it, that they still have time to come back and recoup if there's an injury, or refix up their bike, depending on what's going on, and just time to still come and do it with us,
Nice. Yeah, that's a really good point. And it does become interesting as you look at the calendar and you start trying to build a calendar of rally events, and more often than not, you end up, I can make this one, but not this one. I can go for 1.5 days to this event and then 3 days to this one, or, it just, it gets interesting quickly.
Well, this last year with Baja and Sonora in the fall, so close together, that was a tough one. And then this spring, was it spring? I think that was
Sonora and the Nora Rally.
And the Nora Rally, yeah. Mm-hmm. We're so close together, and we know people that rode both, right? And that's hard.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting challenge, and people signed up to do it, but at the same time. Man, it does put you to the test. That is for sure.
Exactly.
Nice.
So we didn't want to over push that, but we also wanted to make it to where, we could also get as many people that are interested in it that we can.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think this is going to be a good event.
Awesome.
So
we're looking towards it, and obviously with all the planning we're doing, but we're hoping to see, like we said, all the people that we know from our rally adventures over the years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then a whole bunch of new faces.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Lots of new faces, lots of new people getting into the sport and doing that. So good. Well, excellent. Well,
and one last point: you're never too old to start. Because I didn't ride a dirt bike until I was 46.
There we go.
So so there's no.
There's exactly zero excuses.
There's no excuses. None whatsoever.
Exactly zero of them.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time. Yes.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. No.
And for hosting this podcast every week. And it's my go-to on at the gym.
On the drives and gyms. Awesome.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Excellent.
I save it for stair machine day, just so you know. It's not really a weightlifting day, but stair machine day. That's your time.
Hopefully something to pass the For those of you that don't know, the stair mill is one of those special places that
of hell. Yes.
Yeah. Somebody. It's all fun and games until you realize that you're only 2 minutes into a 30-minute stair climb.
Yeah. But then I always say, well, why wouldn't you use level 20? They made 20 levels. You have to use 20.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they're there.
Yeah. It's like sixth gear, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Why would they put it there if you weren't supposed to use it?
Actually use it. Correct. Yeah.
Right? Seems logical.
I mean, it does. Yeah. As long as you got plenty of hydration and the AED device right in the vicinity.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the weekend.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Victor.
You as well.
Thank you. Of course. Enjoy.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
So there you have it. All right. Now it's the official ending. There it is. Battleborn Rally coming in hot. So we got a couple more weeks before we find out about the what is happening. We're maybe even closer to it as you guys are listening to. I'm looking at this and I got to put in my shout out for Lizzie for helping me with the calendar and helping organize all of the guests. It's been a tremendous help. I really, really appreciate it. And we've got, Baja Rally one's going off. We've got all of these, Goodwin, Lacey, Hunt. We got the Battleborn Rally. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to all of these guests and everybody that we're talking to. We've got Battleborn Rally coming up. We've got the Dakar Rally coming up, Baja Rally coming up, all of these different rallies. We're getting into our rally season. It is going to be time. So what are your guys' thoughts? What are you guys thinking? You can do, if you're on Spotify, you can actually put feedback in and reply to and leave comments on the podcast itself. There's more features coming up soon on that one. If you're following us on Spotify, if you're over on the Apple Podcast side of things, hey, drop us a DM on Instagram. You can reach out to us. If you go to chasingwaypoints.com, you can go down to the bottom. You can scroll. You can sign up for the Bivouac newsletter. And 2, you can also drop us a comment, send it and submit it that way. So any which way you want, get a hold of us. Let's talk. Let's talk some rally. Let's get you into the rally raid side of things. So with that being said, guys, remember, it'll make sense when you get there. Enjoy the ride. All right, that is a wrap for the Chasing Waypoints podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Looking forward to our next one coming up. Remember, if you are out riding, do not forget to tag us at Chasing Waypoints. Hashtag Chasing Waypoints. And if you haven't already, get on over to the website. Get signed up for the newsletter, The Bivouac. North America's Rally Raid and Adventure Riding newsletter. Hey, let's have some fun. Let's find out what are you guys up to. Let's get you featured. If you're a brand and looking to get supported, get some eyeballs, get some ears on your business. Absolutely, hit us up. Send us a message at podcast at Chasing Waypoints. But anyway, that is a wrap. Remember, shiny side up. See you guys.